Unless you make a living as a graphic designer or something like that, fonts are one of those things you probably seldom think about, like at all. Even so, they can make quite a subjective difference when using a Linux distro. In my case, the only reason I even deal with fonts is to provide more variety for captions and so on when I'm making YouTube videos. Major Linux distributions ship with a standard set of fonts. Ubuntu, for example, uses the Ubuntu font family as its primary UI font and includes common open fonts like Deja Vu and Liberation for compatibility. Fedora Workstation traditionally uses Cantarell for GNOME and Source Code Pro, but recent versions, Fedora 36 on, have switched to Google's Noto fonts by default for wide language support. Arch Linux's base install is minimal, usually only a console font, so users typically install their own font collection like Noto or Liberation, etc., using the package manager. All these distros also include basic font libraries like URW/Nimbus, FreeFont, etc., so most text displays fine out of the box. A font file is a digital file that contains all the information necessary for a computer, operating system, or application to display and print text in a particular style. This includes the shapes of each character, the glyphs, spacing, kerning, and other typographical details that define how the text appears on screen or in print. You can add fonts via graphical tools or the command line. In a GUI environment, look for a fonts utility or use your software center. For example, GNOME-based distros let you open the software app and search for fonts to preview and install new font packages. GNOME's Font Viewer app, or simply double-clicking a .ttf or .otf file, usually offers an Install button. KDE Plasma has a font management section and system settings to add fonts system-wide or per user. Generally, you can also drag a font file into the local share fonts and the desktop will detect it. On a command line, use your distro's package manager. For example, on Debian/Ubuntu, you might run this. On Red Hat, and on Arch. You can also manually add fonts by copying the TTF or OTF files into the preferred directory, either for local user or for system-wide users. You would normally then refresh the font cache or just restart the computer to make the fonts available. Microsoft proprietary fonts like Arial, Times, Calibri, etc. are not included by default on Linux. Linux distros avoid non-free software, so they substitute open replacement like Red Hat's Liberation fonts when rendering documents. Now, you might want or need actual Microsoft fonts for viewing imported Microsoft Office documents or creating them so they will display correctly on a Windows computer, etc. In this case, you can install them manually. For Ubuntu and Debian, you would enable the multiverse repository and run sudo apt-update, sudo apt-install, ttf-mscorefonts-installer. Now, you will need to accept Microsoft's EULA when prompted. This package will download core Microsoft TrueType fonts like Arial, Times, New Roman, etc. For Fedora Red Hat, use the MSTT Core Fonts installer package. For example, download the RPM from SourceForge and install it. For Arch Linux, you can use an AUR package or copy from Windows. After installing, again, update the font cache or just restart the computer. Your Microsoft Office or web document should now render with the correct fonts. So that's another video in the can. If you found this informative or interesting, please consider liking and subscribing down below. And remember, be excellent to each other.